Good evening, everyone. I'm Don Wilcox. I'm the referee-in-chief of the Eastern Ontario Tackle Officials Association, and I'm here this evening with Walter Barry. Hello, Walter.
Hi, Don. How are you doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
All right.
Good. We're going to try something new this year. Walter Barry is the rules editor and interpreter for Football Canada. And this year, the rules changes have all been approved now. And what we're going to do is a quick little Q&A to try and go over some of the most important points on some of the rule changes. Now, tonight's video is not all-encompassing. It is designed to be used in conjunction with a PowerPoint presentation from Football Canada and the Canadian Football Officials Association, which lists all the rule changes. So we won't be going over every rule change. We will be going over some of the most important points about some of the major changes that are going to be really important for us to get across the country to have consistency in our applications of these rules. The first rule we're going to talk about is Rule 1, Section 8, 1H, and that's page 7 of the rule book. And basically what's happened here is that a couple of exceptions have been removed. So if a player now goes to a knee to play the ball is going to be dead. And Walter, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe a couple of those situations and why this was done?
Yeah, correct, Don. The reason we brought it in is actually to increase safety for the athlete and more or less make rules consistent. If you've noticed in a game, you've had it, you could go to a knee, get the ball, or next time you're on a knee with the ball, the play is dead. So this way, by removing the exceptions, it's going to be consistent throughout. So now, punter punts the ball. The receiver's back there to field it. While he is fielding or before he field the ball, he could go to his knee to field that ball. Now, if his knees are on the ground, gets possession of the ball, dead. Same applies on a snap. Snap from center. Let's say it's bobbled by the QB. He goes to his knee to get it or stop it from rolling back further. Plays dead.
So basically, as soon as a player gets possession of that ball, either from the snap or on a kickball, if they're on the knee or both knees, that ball's going to be dead.
That ball's going to be dead. And it makes it consistent even when you're catching a pass. Makes it consistent all the way through the rules. There's no more guessing. And it becomes actually easier to teach for a coach, right? Because they know the play's going to be dead. Don't touch them.
The second rule we're going to cover is Rule 1, Section 10, Article 8. And it regards player out of bounds. And again, it's a removal of an exception. And in this case, a player used to be able to step on the out of bounds line and come back in and play the ball legally if they were playing a kicked ball in the air. And that exception has now been removed. And Walter will explain a little bit more about why and what happens now.
Yeah, correct, Don. We've always been playing with this rule for a while because it used to be in air, in flight, original trajectory. We couldn't get everybody to figure it out. But then we thought, well, hey, wait a minute. If it's a pass play and the guy steps out of bounds, it's a penalty. So, well, why don't we just make the rules consistent throughout? A player steps out of bounds, he's got to stay out of bounds. If he comes back in, it's illegal participation. Now, you'll also notice in that rule, if he comes back in and touches a loose ball, he's going to give up possession. On this play, we're talking about a kick ball. So that ball is in flight. So an in-flight ball that's recovered is only a 10-yard penalty for illegal participation. Now, the penalty would be applied at the point of possession of the ball or point ball held. So, but you still allow the play to continue because he could possibly fumble it and the other team could recover it. Who knows what happens, right? So it's not a dead ball play, not whistle dead, continue, penalty, illegal participation.
Excellent. The third rule we're going to take a look at tonight is Rule 4, Section 2, Article 2. And it's about misleading tactics. And the change is going to allow the quarterback to slowly withdraw their hands from under center for a variety of different reasons. And the key word is slowly.
Right now, the way our rule was, the quarterback was confined. If he put his hands under center, he couldn't move. So if he now read something different in the defense and wanted to make a change in the play, we either had to yell it out or tough, Now we know the quarterback's not making that motion to try to draw the team offside or try to simulate that the ball's been snapped. We're going to give him the ability to come out, redo his signals, or he back up into the shotgun formation. We don't think they should be penalized for that. That's part of the game.
Moving on now to a passing situation, and this is Rule 6, Section 4, Article 9A. And there's going to be a replacement here and a change to the wording, and Walter will explain why in just a moment. So, Team A, prior to a forward pass being thrown across the line of scrimmage, a Team A player may not initiate contact with or block a Team B player more than 1 yard in advance of the line of scrimmage until the pass has been touched by an eligible receiver. A Team A player may not interfere with a Team B player who is about to intercept a forward pass. Walter, you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah. Okay. This one basically is only the first sentence we really changed in here. And the philosophy behind the change, this change really actually goes hand in hand with the change we also made in Rule 6410B, ineligible, illegal contact on an eligible receiver. We've always been fighting over the years between this because one's an A penalty, a B penalty. A does know if it's a pass or not a pass. So downfield blocking. So we cleaned up both rules and we made the illegal contact on an eligible receiver a Team B penalty and the blocking downfield a Team A penalty. So that means that the Team A players, they go downfield, they're blocking, no passes thrown, we're all good. They go downfield, they're blocking, then a pass is thrown and caught on the other side of the line of scrimmage. We have a penalty for them downfield blocking before the ball was caught.
And that leads us to another change in 6410 as well. This is an exception. If a pass receiver who would normally be considered eligible, either by number or by reporting to the referee, is made ineligible by their position, and the defensive team interferes with the receiver's attempt to catch the ball on a forward pass, then both teams are subject to penalty, whether the Team A player touches the ball in an attempt to catch it or not. The foul for Team A, ineligible receiver, will be deemed to be the first foul for the purposes of adjudicating the dual foul rule. And Walter, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Dom. The discussion based around this was on the fact that because the receiver who got made ineligible because, let's say, it was a tight end who was told he's supposed to go for a pass, didn't realize the wideout stepped up on the line, made him ineligible. The rules stated that if B interfered with him, the only penalty we would be applying is against Team A. Now, realistically thinking, Team B is not looking at whether the guy is eligible, ineligible. He knew he's a tight end. He's still playing his normal defensive moves on the player. So why shouldn't Team B be penalized for causing the interference as well? So by putting in this exception, we're making sure it's going to be a dual foul, but the Team A penalty would be the first penalty in that dual foul situation. Okay.
We're now moving down into the unnecessary roughness area, and there are a couple of changes here. There are a couple of other changes earlier in the book sequentially, but we're going to handle all of the close line play area and blocking below the waist changes as a group so that we can go all through them in a logical order at one time and just do one set of discussions for that. So our next rule is going to be Rule 7, Section 3, Article 13, and that's the horse collar. And it's being revised again this year, and there are two portions to this penalty. First, horse collar A, grasping an opponent by the inside of the shoulder pads or by the inside collar of the jersey, that is a foul. B, grasping the outside of the jersey above the numbers and using this as the primary means of causing a change in the ball carrier's direction, that is a foul. So there's a differentiation this year between grasping inside the jersey or inside the shoulder pads and grasping outside the jersey above the number. And Walter, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. The discussion around this one was all based on increasing player safety. Okay. And also what is being taught to tackle. Tackle is not being taught, get your hands up around the guy's head, their shoulders. It's down lower. And it is dangerous grabbing the inside of the collar. So we want to make sure you get your hands away from there. So right now, it's just the same philosophy of grabbing a face mask. As soon as you get your hand inside the collar or the shoulder pad, it's going to be called a penalty. Now, in the same boat, it is dangerous to grabbing up high. So if you're above the numbers and you use that as a means to change the direction of the ball carrier, meaning not that I just hold on to him, continue riding 5, 6, 7 yards downfield. I haven't changed anything. Maybe I slowed him down a bit, but I haven't changed anything. But if I yank him back or if I yank him to the side, that's dangerous because that still plays on the legs and the knees, and we don't want that. So it's two different aspects. Okay, that's how we brought out the rules now.
Our next rule application under Rule 7 is Section 3, Article 14, and it involves the illegal block hands to the face. And it's cleaning up the language a little bit and adding a little bit of clarification. So the rule will now read under Article 14, no player of either team may forcibly thrust their hands forward above the frame to contact an opponent on the neck, face, head, or face mask. If the initial contact is to the chest, but the hands ride up to the neck, face, head, or face mask, and the contact is forcible or prolonged, it shall be a penalty. And Walter, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, Dom, what we're trying to get here is that fact. Okay, it's got to be that forceful hit to the head or that prolonged use of like you're pushing the head. So you're pushing and putting pressure on the neck. Okay, we were finding that some guys were taking it that as soon as the guy's hand touched either the face mask or the head, oh, that's a penalty. It's got to be called. But he didn't do anything. There's no danger to the player of that. The danger comes if it was a forcible whack. Okay, you're going to feel that. Or if you ever see it and you get the face mask here and you start pushing, you even just do this right here with your chin, you start feeling it pulling in the neck. And that could cause issues. And we don't want that.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's danger and also the advantage gained, right? Because if your hand rides up and you
Exactly.
realize it's up there and you get it off, you haven't gained an advantage. So
Exactly. That's and with that we were finding some guys were doing that as soon as the hand rolled up and touched, they're throwing a penalty. But the player's bringing his hand down right away. So he hasn't done anything. He hasn't, like you say, gained that advantage.
now we're going to start dealing with the close line play area and the blocking below the waist zone. And in the past, there has been a little conflict a little bit between the two zones. So the first rule change that we're going to go through this year is 413, and this actually cleans up the language. So the close line play area now, under Article 3 of Rule 4, close line play area. The close line play area is defined as the area between the offensive tight ends or positions normally occupied by the tight ends within 2 yards either side of the line of scrimmage. So it's still a total 4-yard zone. It runs now from the tight ends instead of the tackles. And Walter, I think the reasoning behind this one is fairly obvious, but did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, to me it is quite obvious. We were just trying to standardize to do the two zones. We went try to make them the same. You know, why do we have so many variations, exceptions? It only causes for confusion. So
And now that we've got that definition, we're going to move into a couple of situations within those zones. Our first rule within the blocking below the waist area zone is 7-3-10, and this involves crackback blocking. And the definition of the zone is now changed. It is no longer the close line play area. It's the blocking below the waist area, which is relevant for all of the crackback blocking applications. There's also a note been added to the rule, and it basically reads, if the team A player moves into the block below the waist area prior to the snap and comes to a complete stop, the player shall not be penalized for a crackback block. And what that does is just make it consistent with the blocking below the waist area. And Walter, did you want to expand on that? Was there anything you wanted to add?
no, basically that's it, Don. It was just to put the two rules in line with each other. Okay, because we're allowing for blocking below the waist, we're allowing the guy to come in and stop in the zone. Then we're saying, well, we could do it for crackback, makes sense. But now, if we kept the crackback zone as the clothesline play area, that means the guy can only be like 2 yards off the line of scrimmage. He'd have to stop in there. So it's still contradicting. So we figured to just standardize it, make it simple for everybody. Let's just make it the block below the waist zone for both penalties.
The next rule we're going to take a look at is a really important distinction this year. It's 7-3-19, and it involves blocking below the waist. There's a very significant change here. I'll read it out, and then Walter will explain it. So Article 19, blocking below the waist. It shall be illegal to block an opponent below the waist, except when the block occurs in the block below the waist area by a player positioned in this area at the snap of the ball and when the block is above the knee. Note, a player coming from outside the zone must come to a complete stop in the zone prior to the snap of the ball to be considered positioned in the zone. So that's consistent with the former rule, but the significant part of the change is the blocking below the waist and the blocking above the knee. And Walter will explain a bit more about that.
Yeah, correct. If you notice we've also taken out a lot of wording because before we said you could do it except here, except there, and not legal. So now it just makes it more simple where the only time you're allowed to block below the waist is in this area and if you're in this area. But we want to try to make it a little bit more safe and talk to some coaches. The tactic they use to teach is to shoot for the thigh. Okay. Coaches are telling us that if you go lower than the thigh, you've actually done the block wrong. You've taken yourself out of the play, and that's not what they want. And that's not what they teach. So it was felt to, okay, let's limit the block to above the knee. So now if you're in that area and you block and the contact actually occurs below the knee, you're going to get called for blocking below the waist.
And Walter, just to clarify, would it be at or below the knee?
But yeah, because
Okay.
the block has got to be above the knee. The
Right.
actual wording we use, above the knee. So if it's
Right.
at or below, that's a penalty.
And the final rule that we're going to be taking a look at tonight is 7.3.15, and that's blocking from the rear. It's illegal except as follows. The block occurs in the close line play area, is made by a player who was positioned in this area when the ball was snapped, and the contact is above the waist. And Walter, there's a significant reason why this was put into place.
Yeah, this is put into place to actually provide more safety for those players. If you notice the blocking from the rear penalty itself, it indicates that it could occur from charging into the opponent's back with the body or throwing the body across the back of the legs. Okay. And then the exception we had was it was okay if it was in the clothesline play area and you were in the clothesline play area. Well, think of it. Even though it's a tight area, I throw my body across the back of your legs. What's the potential of your legs going out? Big. So we don't want that, So we've limited the block from the rear in the clothesline play area. You could do it, but you got to make sure that contact is above the waist. We don't want you throwing your body on the back of those legs because something's going to snap, something's going to give somewhere. That's just a dangerous move.
Well, that's it for this evening. We hope you've enjoyed the video and we hope it's been informative. Thank you very much, Walter, for taking part. Really appreciate your insights and expertise and background information.
Yep, no problem, Don. That's what we're here for. And for all you out there, folks out there, keep in mind, right? If you see something in the rule book, like a typo or something that doesn't make sense, always send either an email to tacklerules@footballcanada.com, or the CFOA has a website. And on that website, they have a link to ask your questions to the editor. That does come directly to me. And we're more than happy to provide more explanation, more interpretations, anything. It's the whole goal here is to get everybody on the same page, hopefully making the same call when they see the exact same thing.
And just a reminder, folks, that that website is cfoaref.com. If you go there on the homepage, there's an area where you can click and send the information. And just remember that this video is not an all-encompassing look at all of the rules. You need to use this in conjunction with the PowerPoint, which will be also posted on the CFOA webpage, and we'll be making it available to the local associations. So again, thank you, Walter, and thank you everyone for viewing, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime soon.
Yep. Thanks, Don.